I was trying to adjust the screen so it wouldn't show everything. I didn't know she wanted to be on camera. Let me get this music off. Let me get that out of here. Let me get this playing in the background. I think we are up to speed. Hold on, there we go. Got to put it live. That's now they telling me to do all that. See, this is. Hold on. First things first. All right, we're good. We're good. We are good. Okay, hair. I like the way the hair looks. I don't see that angle. All right, so y'all know what it is, man. Let me get to the chat. First and foremost, my apologies. I had to get that coffee in. Maya coming through in the clutch. I didn't have time to make it as I usually make it because I don't like giving away. Well, actually, I do like giving away. I like supporting the economy, so I do like supporting the businesses. However, if I can support, if I can save that money and put it towards the OG network on coffee, coffee costs a lot of money. This is why I've been thinking about talking with a few people about opening up a coffee shop. It's like, yo, a dope coffee shop. Imagine like a coffee shop mixed with a lounge / creator studio, cool vibe with a vintage or just like a cool thrift store in the front, and almost also like a little marketplace where you can buy some of it. I don't want to give away too much, but hey, if somebody else hears that and they become inspired by it, go for it, man. Shoot your shot. Just give us a little bit of credit. I want 1%. 1% of profits, not revenue. All right, but let's get to it. We got Big Bro Steve in the building. Hold on. We started off with Tim. Let me start from the top. Tim, shout out to Tim coming back. Tim, huge. I didn't even read your full. Huge hemp pill. Huge hemp hill. All right, shout out to Tim tapping in again. Appreciate you returning and giving us that insight. As all y'all, whatever you're doing right now, do me a favor. Like. That's going to help boost the algorithm. Like. And for all those that don't usually leave a comment, just leave an empty comment or just say, how about just say hello or say good morning or grand rising, whatever it is that you choose to greet us with. That would help with the algorithm as well, but don't feel pressured. Oh yeah, 20 minutes to Tucker's. Hey man, we're cool, right? Hey, 20 minutes. Hey, I don't even know if I got to that part. Shout out to Sis in the building, Anthony's. Good morning, y'all. And Big Bro. I already spoke to Big Bro about an hour ago. We're actually going to use that video that you sent over. It's very relevant to the second topic that we're going to be covering today on this apparent Nazi-ish tattoo. We're going to talk about that. It may be a bit of a surprise as far as how we discuss it. I don't know if y'all would be surprised on our takes and on our combos around it. Maybe not. Actually, maybe not. Morning. It's going to be another amazing day full of opportunity. Yes, it is. Oh, hey, Maya. Shout out to Bub in the building. Good morning, all. Shout out to Motown Mojo. Good morning, all. Pro tip, started my day listening to Left My Wallet in El Segundo and starts on a 10. Starts on a 10. You got to explain to us hold on. We're going to look it up. El Segundo. What is El Segundo? I got to find out what El Segundo is. So is it El Segundo? Hold on, I may have pronounced it wrong. All right, so I think it's that's a place in Cali. All right, we're gonna have to check out that. We're gonna have to check out that song. Is it a great wake up song? Because if so, I'm always looking for songs, music, inspiration in the beginning of the day to help me get the right start. So we could definitely tap in. Beige adjacent. Good morning. Shout out to Ragnar in the building, my bro. Ragnar in the building, me and my brother from a black mother. Hello, good to see you. Oh man, everybody showing Maya love. Shout out to Steve. Maya can't wait to get back to Jersey to get that package of hers. We sent it to Jersey because we figured it would be more fitting in Jersey, dealing with the allergies and this weather. Getting a little bit colder. I don't know if it's still allergy season, but dealing with maybe flu season, I guess it would be. Definitely need that oil of oregano. So appreciate you again, Big Bro, for that. Coffee shop with strippers, please. I mean, I'm not opposed to. Look, am I about to get in trouble? Yo, I'll tell you one thing. So I'll tell you very quickly. I real funny story. So strippers, I never was big into the strip club until I went to Indiana, and it was a little bit of a different strip club where you actually go there, you eat. You know, they're known as having the best fried chicken in the city. It's one of those things. So you go. But one thing that I will say is strippers, their minds, I always thought about doing this program for retired strippers. All right, so I'm giving y'all the insight on this. So think about this. Humble yourself. For those that think you're too good to have this conversation, humble yourself. That's what I'll say. All right, what would Jesus do? All right, so I was thinking, and just like a lot of athletes, strippers go through this phasing out, right? Where you got a short window to make it happen. You got a short window, and there's always that young, hungrier player that's coming in that will run through a wall for less money than you're willing to run through. Obviously, I'm making the analogy with football. So what do? You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody really wants to see a 40-year-old stripper on the pole. Nobody really wants to see that. However, the qualities, the tools, the skills that strippers have developed, exotic dancers, can we say exotic dancers? That exotic dancers have developed throughout their career, sales, marketing, soft skills, all the things that a lot of our young kids are not growing up with, how to communicate, all these different things, very valuable. So I'm like, yo, why don't you have a sales school? And apparently this is something that a lot of the pharmaceutical companies used to do. And to be totally honest, when I look at when I go to a lot of these medical conferences and healthcare conferences, I know that some of the strippers I know will outsell, outmarket. Maya, is it okay? Bear with me, Maya. I'm just having Maya knows how I feel about this, though. And we were literally getting ready to, well, I shouldn't say we're getting ready, but I had a vision. I'm like, yo, this will be something very dope. So let me actually get on. Y'all know I go on these tangents. Let me stop before I get in trouble. But yes, the point is that even if there are strippers involved, we don't need them stripping. We don't need them exposing their bodies. They have other tools and skills that they can bring to the table that I believe are very valuable, whether that's selling another company's product or maybe their own product or whatever role that may be in a business. All right. And I mean that genuinely, not in a weird way. So I want to be very clear on that. I'm all for let me move on. Ragnar, you see what happens? All right. So ZZ wrote, don't like how Tucker consistently tried to muzzle the movement. Seen a few say he owned Nick at the end with women talk. I don't see it personally. I just don't think Nick's met the one. It's nothing. So I watched most of the interview when it came to Tucker and Nick, and we're going to watch a couple different clips here. But my takeaway was more so that Tucker was poking at Nick a bit, but Nick is on, I'm going to be honest, Nick is on another level. And I'm not saying that Nick is above Tucker. I'm just kind of putting everything into context. For Nick being 28, for Nick being going into all these away games, like, these people are not coming in to Nick's platform, going into Nick's house, his beautiful studio in his parents' apartment. They're not coming there. Nick is going into all these away games with people that have either said crazy things about him, talked about him, Tucker said what, he's a little gay kid living in his basement, saying that he's a fed, all these different things. Nick comes into all these conversations extremely composed. This is the Nick Fuentes that I prefer. I'll be totally honest, rather than the one who may be saying performative rhetoric on his show to appeal to what he believes is his base. So when it comes to this interview, that's kind of how I saw it. I saw it as Tucker poking a little bit, even though I think that Tucker actually likes him. But it's one of those things where Tucker recognizes, and he said this before, where he knows that Nick is a special talent. And I think that it's very hard for a lot of us to embrace that younger, hungrier, maybe more vicious, maybe a little bit more talented version of yourself, especially when you take age into consideration. So that was my takeaway. Nick always performs. I study when I'm watching these interviews, I study how people cut people off, how they make their point in a respectful way, how they allow the other person to speak, and then come and are they listening to what the person said? Are they able to connect the dots? Are they able to listen to the other person talk for a good amount of time, but then respond to every little thing and calculate it and create almost a storyline around it? I study these things. Nick is on a different level. He's on a different level. This is, once again, why I don't believe he needs to have all the performative rhetoric and all that. But let's get into it. Let's get into it. Y'all didn't come here to, well, actually, this is the live show. Y'all did come here to see me. All right, on the Nick videos, every once in a while, since like today and yesterday, when I put up Nick in the thumbnail, I know that there's going to be, a lot of people that are just coming in to tap into Nick. But it is what it is. This is the live show. This is us. All right, y'all get the other shows, the Groypers, y'all take precedent. But when it comes to this, this is the OG network. All right, this is our live show. So let's get into the video with Nick. Before I talk for the entire hour and then get into a show, let's get into it. I have a couple times. Let's go to 3152. Let's go to 3152. Let's have a convo. Let's have a convo. Let me make sure that this is shared for y'all to see. And make sure in the meantime that y'all are liking. Share with your group chat. Subscribe if you haven't already. And turn those notifications on. And let's get into it.
2017. So after that second semester, and I applied for this field rep job. It was this 2-week training. And I go there, and on the first day of the whole thing, they go around the room of all the prospective applicants. It's like a big tryout, basically, for 2 weeks. And they wanted to get everybody to break the ice and know each other. So we did introductions. They said, say your name, how old you are, and why you're a conservative. And at this time, people are not where, let's say, we are right now. They're not America first. They're not anything like, they're not talking about great replacement. That's not on the radar for them. So you go around the room and you hear stuff about small government, free markets, personal responsibility, that sort of thing. And they get to me and I said, well, I'm a conservative because we're losing our civilization because of mass immigration. America doesn't resemble America anymore. France is no longer France. I said, and if we don't conserve the demographics, forget about the rest. That's what we need to conserve. And I said that. And I was told later on that at that moment, I was immediately disqualified by the people that were running the job training.
On what grounds?
They said that was too far right. That was too extreme.
Worrying about who lives in your country is far right?
Apparently.
When we started this show, we were looking for a very specific...
All right. Let me move past these ads real quick. I think I wanted to let Nick finish his thought process or this topic.
/Tucker.
So where does that, where?
All right, go. Perfect. Thank you, Tucker, for that. Give me the perfect time to interject. So this is what I was thinking. Look at so I was in Target the other day. And yes, Anthony's, we back Monday through Friday. And I appreciate that, Storm. I just wanted to acknowledge that. I appreciate that, Storm and Pitbull. You put on a valuable show in your own right, so I appreciate that. All right, so this the other day in Target. Maya and I walking through Target. We're walking through Target, and I see this, and I'm like, yo, they got the Black Santa. And it's funny how you have to say Black Santa. You can't just say Santa. Totally different conversation. This is what was said. I'm just telling y'all what happened. So we walked over here, and take a look at this. Let me move over here so y'all can see the full way. Hold on, still can't see it. There we go. So you can see the full picture without me getting in the way. So I saw this picture. No, it's too small. It is what it is. I saw this picture, and I realized that this is what Nick is talking about. This is what, and let's be honest. All right, let's be honest. This is not, y'all should know me by now. Matter of fact, I'm not going to lead off the conversation with anything. I'm just going to get right to it. This is what scares a whole lot of people. And let me be a little bit more specific. This is what scares a whole lot of white people. Now, bear with me. The Democrats tap into the fears of Black people and a lot of minorities. They tap into the fears. This is what a lot of these politicians do. The people that they're looking to lead, they try to tap into their fear in order to get them to follow them, because they see like, okay, if I align myself with them, then I'll be in a stronger position. No different than a young kid growing up in the hood where he wants to be a part of a gang, right? He feels like if he attaches himself to something, it's the best way for him to survive, perform, whatever it is that you want to say in that neighborhood. When a lot of people see this and they hear all the rhetoric, they hear the propaganda, they hear a lot of people talking about how America, white people are going to be the minorities, how this influence, this Muslim influence is taking over, how they're bringing in all these illegal migrants, that they're going to take over and they're going to be the majority. They're going to control the voting now because they're allowing all these illegal migrants to come vote, and they're going to vote for the Democrats. They provide all these programs for them that help them when they first get here to eat, to go to school, to have housing, maybe even some programs that allow them to or help them buy a house, all these different things. And when Nick talks about the disaffected white men that he appeals to, this is who he's referring to. This is what he's referring to. Now, I'm not saying that Nick is right, but what I'm saying is that if people are fearful of something, then it's real to them. And this is how we get propagandized on both sides. On both sides. It's the same game plan for both parties. So this picture just reminded me of this conversation. Like I took this picture maybe yesterday, and then it's funny, I told y'all I'm in that Nick Fuentes group chat. I put this in the group chat, and initially I was gonna just put it in there to clown, to make fun, to poke at them a little bit, being honest. But when I saw this, and then I heard Nick's response to why he is a conservative, it's based on the fear. It's based on the fear that white Americans are losing the culture, are losing the country. That's what Nick is expressing. And this is the fear that a lot of people have. And when you create an environment, which America has become, which Tucker talks about all the time, where there's limited resources, people can't afford homes like our parents could afford homes. People, the jobs, a college education, that degree doesn't mean as much. Everybody has it. The market is saturated with college degrees. They've created an environment where there's the perception, I don't know if it's real or not, the perception of limited resources and limited opportunities. So what does that do for everybody? When one side is saying, hey, if Donald Trump wins, you're going to be in chains and shackles. And the other side is saying, let's say like a Mamdani, he's going to destroy New York City. People will say both things on both sides. Like, both sides will tap into the fear of whoever it is that they're trying to appeal to. So that's why with Mamdani, because the conservatives, the Republicans, they're trying to fear people into voting for anybody but Mamdani. And a lot of Democrats are as well, just to be honest. But when it's the conservative side of things or moderates, what are they saying? They're talking about the thing that you fear the most, money. Oh, you're going to pay more taxes, right? So they try to tap into what's going to fear each side. When people see this, they become fearful. They become fearful. They become fearful. And when you add that into the current environment that I was saying, where there's the limited resources, what does that do to anybody? What does that do to all of us? When we feel like we have an abundance of things, we move in a different way, right? We're more helpful. We may be more giving. But when we feel like things are tight, then we're looking at how we're spending our money a little bit differently. We're a little bit more intentional with how we're spending our money rather than just being willing to give it out. We want to almost hold on to it because we're scared that something may happen to where we may need this. So when people are convinced that they have their opportunities taken away and they're going away through DEI programs, and that if I score a certain test on the SAT score compared to a black kid scoring that score on that test score, then why do they get that opportunity? If I go to a job and this job is trying to make sure that they have a good, what is it called, the ESG scores, where they go with the companies. This was big during 2020 after George Floyd, or 2020, 2021, where companies had to have a certain score, have a certain amount of diversity in their employees. Now those opportunities are being taken away from white men. And when you have people that are pushing this narrative, pushing this agenda, and I'm not saying whether it's true or not true, but what I'm trying to point out is that you can call it victimhood, but this appeal to people on both sides is going to be largely based on fear. How can we scare these people? So when Target puts out something like this, and a white person is going into this, and this is in Midtown Miami. It's not like I'm in Doral or Little Havana or anywhere else. When people see that, they become scared. They immediately think about all the things that a Nick Fuentes has talked about, all the things that maybe a lot of other Christian supremacists. I don't even know what Nick goes back and forth on what he calls himself, in my opinion, or he calls himself, I think, a white Christian nationalist, not supremacist, white Christian nationalist. That's going to scare people. But let's keep going. Let's keep going. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that these are the things that when you try to adjust things and make them perfect and say, okay, we're going to provide these people opportunities rather than just base things on merit. When you try to bring people here illegally, just so they can vote in the election in a few years, it's going to present problems, and we're only going to escalate this division between our country, in my opinion. So let's keep going. Let's keep going. Hold on, I didn't switch it. All right. So remember, he was just talking about why he became a conservative. Let me actually play that part again. Let me play that part again. What was the timestamp on that? I want y'all to hear it again just to get a better feel. 31:52. All right.
Master, and I applied for this field rep job. It was this 2-week training. And I go there, and on the first day of the whole thing, they go around the room of all the prospective applicants. It's like a big tryout, basically, for 2 weeks. And they wanted to get everybody to break the ice and know each other. So we did introductions. They said, say your name, how old you are, and why you're a conservative. And at this time, people are not where, let's say, we are right now. They're not America first. They're not anything like, they're not talking about great replacement. That's not on the radar for them. So you go around the room and you hear stuff about small government, free markets, personal responsibility, that sort of thing. And they get to me and I said, well, I'm a conservative because we're losing our civilization because of mass immigration. America doesn't resemble America anymore. France is no longer France. I said, and if we don't conserve the demographics, forget about the rest. That's what we need to conserve. And I said that. And I was told later on that at that moment, I was immediately disqualified by the people that were running the job training.
On what grounds?
They said that was too far right. That was too extreme.
Worrying about who lives in your country is far right?
Apparently.
When we started this show, we were looking for a very...
Y'all know what it is. Got to fast forward. And then we're going to skip ahead to one more timestamp that I have.
Where does that leave you ideologically? Like, how are you changing at this point?
So at this point, I'm realizing that something is deeply wrong here in the conservative movement, because we were led to believe in those days of the campus culture wars and Gamergate and all that, is that we're the marketplace of ideas and we're about free speech and the rest of it. And here I am being like nuked from orbit by Ben Shapiro as a kid, and for asking what I thought were reasonable questions. Because I didn't come from some strange background. I come from a normal home. My parents are Catholic. They're married. We came from a relatively affluent suburb. I went to Lyons Township. That's like a very affluent high school. In other words, I didn't wake up as like the son of, William Luther Pierce. I wasn't like a skinhead or something. I was like a normal guy that was like, country's too diverse. We're too pro-Israel. Like, this is reasonable. And I was just getting sandbagged for it and blacklisted. And what's more, nobody cared. Like, because I remember going on Twitter and saying, like, why isn't anyone sticking up for me? Where's Dave Rubin? The free speech warrior. Where's he on this one? Where's Shapiro? Where's all these people? And in some way, they were all sort of complicit in this. So I realized that the conservative movement was completely bankrupt in that way.
Yeah. Well,
and
you're
I became very
absolutely right.
radical.
Well, you became, let me.
So that's what I wanted to focus on there, but I want to move on to a different part. And y'all know we want to move quickly because we'll get caught up on one clip. But I want to move to about somewhere a little bit more than the middle of the interview. Is that good?
And let me give you like a perfect example. So you say on your show that we need to treat Israel like any other country. And I sort of understand that in principle because Israel is another foreign country.
Yeah.
But Israel is unlike every other country in the sense that because the Jewish people are in a diaspora all over the world, there are significant numbers of Jews in Europe, but also in the United States. And because of their unique heritage and story, which is that they're a stateless people, they're unassimilable, they resist assimilation for thousands of years. And I think that's a good thing. And now they have this territory in Israel. There's a deep religious affection for the state. It's bound up in their identity, the story of the Exodus from Egypt, the promise of the land, all these things. So let's say in the United States, for example, somebody like a Sheldon Adelson, he's not Israeli. Is he an ideological neocon? Does he believe in the promise of democratic globalism? I don't think necessarily. His heart is in Israel. And it's because he is a proud Jewish person. And I guess what I'm saying is that if you are a Jewish person in America, you're sort of, and again, it's not because they're born, but it's sort of a rational self-interest politically to say, I'm a minority. I'm a religious ethnic minority. This is not really my home. My ancestral home is in Israel. There's like a natural affinity that Jews have for Israel. And I would say on top of that, for the international Jewish community. They're extremely organized. And many of them are critical of Israel or Israel's current government or the project of Israel. But I guess what they have in common, unlike, let's say, like Singapore, for example, is that they have this international community across borders, extremely organized, that is putting the interests of themselves before the interests of their home country. And there's no other country that has a similar arrangement like that. No other country has a strong identity like that, this religious blood and soil conviction, this history of being in the diaspora, stateless, wandering, persecuted, and in particular, the historic animosity between the Jewish people and the Europeans. They hate the Romans because the Romans destroyed the temple. That's why.
You know what I'm realizing that I wasn't even thinking about when I first heard this part, but now that I watched it from the first clip that I showed y'all to this clip, how much we are controlled by fear. How much all of this, even when it comes to, in my opinion, the Jewish organization, why they're so united. Why they feel that they have to be so organized, why they make a lot of the decisions that they make. They're scared. They're fearful. They're fearful. It just is what it is. When you're at Jewish events, whether it's a bris, whether it's a bar mitzvah, we know how Jewish people, they usually toast, just based on my experience, to they tried to kill us, and we're still here. Something along that, even if it's not word for word. It's largely due to fear. And that's just from me, from my perspective, looking from the outside in. And that fear mixed with what we've been talking about for the last week of tribalism, that can create a very dangerous environment. When you have the tribalism, right, where it's me and mine, and we prioritize me and mine. It's us versus everybody else. It's us versus the world. The rest of the world is out to get us. The rest of the world is against us. That's where the tribalism meets the fear. And that's where things become extremely dangerous. Extremely dangerous. Let's keep going.
Eric Weinstein goes to the Arch of Titus and gives it the finger and takes a picture. we don't think like that as Americans and white people. We don't think about the Roman Empire in 2,000 years ago. They do. And so I guess that's really, and I don't think that's me saying the Jews, the Jews, the Jews. I don't think that's me being hateful. I don't think that's me being collectivist. I think that's understanding that identity politics, whether you love it or hate it, whatever you feel about it, it's a reality that we live in a world of Jews and Christians, of whites and blacks. These identities mean something to us and they mean things to each other, and we can't sort of wish them away. And it feels like white people and Christians are the only ones that do that.
It's so funny how we talk about identity politics, and it's I understand what Nick is saying. Nick is saying like, hey, based on Tucker's saying like, I don't rock out with identity politics. Just to give y'all some context, Nick is saying, well, in this identity politic world, then that does control the way that we look at things. It's almost as if, how can I put it? I just had an example in my mind. Okay, look at America. You can look at America and say, America's a capitalist society. I choose not to have that mindset. You can choose not to have that mindset. Other people may choose to say, no, if I'm living in a capitalist society, then I'm going to make sure that I'm equipped to succeed from a capitalist standpoint. But see, the problem is when it comes to the identity politics, in my opinion, is that you begin to not address the fact that identity politics is wrong because you're trying to win. It's like, instead of looking at it and saying, no, identity politics is wrong, we need to destroy that. I believe, if I'm hearing correctly, Nick is more so talking about it from a standpoint of, nah, that's the system. That's how it's set up. So we need to win based on that system and then figure out what changes we need to make when we get in there. And I'm trying to hold myself accountable or think about how I look at certain things, where even on the issue of, black issues and stuff like that, people always, well, do we need to destroy the system? Or no, just teach me the rules and I'll figure out how to win. It kind of makes me feel that type of way or ask myself that question, even though I think those are different situations, perhaps. I'm not sure. I'm processing it with you all for the first time, to be totally honest, as we're having this conversation. But this is definitely, when you think about identity politics, it's tribalism. It's no different than tribalism. And I don't think in this clip we're going to see it, but they were having the discussion of whether or not people should be able to have dual citizenship and run for an elected position in America and have dual citizenship and go over and, let's say, fight for another country, fight for Israel, and then come back over here. Should that be allowed? This is where the conversation is happening. Can you serve two masters? Can you pledge your allegiance to two different countries? And when we look at what has been happening, if we're just looking at it from a realistic standpoint, it seems like, I'm not saying that this is the majority of Jewish people, but it seems like the loudest ones in the room are the Zionists. And a lot of and I shouldn't say are the Zionists, because I want to be very clear, we did show the video in New York City where a bunch of the rabbis were protesting Zionism. So I do want to be clear on that. But it seems like there is an overwhelming allegiance to Israel. Like, let's say, even if it was trying to be balanced, if somebody was trying to balance their allegiance to both, right? Pour half of their cup into Israel, half of their cup in the United States. It seems as if people aren't even trying to do that. When you look at our government, when you look at the AIPAC influence, when you look at the overall influence that Zionist, pro-Israel funders, politicians, when you look at their influence, it does not seem like it's even trying to be 50-50. Because if you looked at this as any other country, if you looked at this as just what's happening in America, like we said, I think on yesterday's show, we're the same people that are okay with us giving so much money to Israel. A lot of those same people, I think it was Ben Shapiro, a lot of those same people have a problem with the social programs and welfare programs that are given in America. At least those tax dollars are being given to other Americans. So you just see the contradictions play out based on tribalism and based on fear, because it clouds our judgment. Both cloud our judgment and also compromise our morals, principles, and values, in my opinion.
There's no question about that, your last point, for sure. One of the reasons they do that is because they've been taught to hate themselves, of course, since the Second World War. Another reason is, however, the reality of a multi-ethnic country requires you to sort of set aside community or group interests in favor of corporate interests, universal interests, national interests. And you have to do that or else it doesn't work. And so, I agree those attitudes. I mean, certainly in other parts of the world, people think this way, but you can't have that here. And so it's just important to remind everybody that, things may be generally true, but again, they're not always true. And there are people who just strongly disagree. And by the way, in the specific case of Israel, there are a ton of Orthodox who I know who are opposed to the state of Israel. They're more Jewish than Dave Rubin, a lot more, and yet they oppose it. Jeff Sachs is the most a wonderful man, who's Jewish, the most articulate kind of critic of the state of Israel that I'm aware of. So I don't know, that's just meaningful. You can't, if everything is inherited, then there's no hope for the continuation of America. Mm-hmm. Do you see that?
Yeah.
I want to interject mostly with the amazing things that y'all are giving, the feedback. I want to just highlight that. So Omri, shout out to Omri, wrote, in my mind with the whole group identity thing, either white people play two or minority groups should stop using their identity to form political action groups. I like that you said that because that's where my mind was honestly going. And it's going to go, I think, with the next point that critical thinking is getting ready to make. So critical thinking wrote, humans have hundreds of thousands of years as tribes. You don't just shake that overnight. Tribalism kept us safe, fed, etc. Survival trait. Humans have outdated, everything we do is tribal, from organizing to destroying. I want to pull up Omri's point. What are we using to identify our tribes? Does that play a role in it? Because if we're just using the most simplistic things that are out of everybody's control, like race, for instance, are we using that to identify our tribes? Or are we using, I tell you how I identify my tribe, the people whose values I respect, principles, morals I align with, and that have tremendous integrity. Those are the people that I want to align myself with. That's who I consider my tribe, my people. Not that we have to agree on everything. I've made that clear on basically every show. But from a principle standpoint, from a value standpoint, from an integrity standpoint, is that how we're choosing to identify our group? Because I believe that's what politics, if you asked a politician, that's what they would say. They wouldn't say that the Democrats is just based on appealing to whatever group of victims that they can appeal to. They wouldn't say that. They would say that the Democrats and Republicans, when you talk to a Republican, they would say it's based on conservative values, preserving the best parts of America, right? With the traditions. It wouldn't be about race. Now, what happens is, in order for these political groups to appeal to certain groups, they take the lazy route, fear, emotional triggering, right? And how do you tap into that? You just make it around race. You just make it around race, skins and shirts, just the easiest way to do it. That group, okay, they're on this side. How do I appeal to Black people? How do I appeal to the LGBTQ people? How do I appeal to disaffected white men who feel like opportunities are being taken away from them by DEI and other social programs that the Democrats are pushing? How do I appeal? They get very lazy in their marketing. However, it is extremely effective. It's extremely effective. So my question would be, okay, if we're going to choose to use it as identity politics, if we're going to have to, play this identity politic game, because that's just a system that is what it is, what are we choosing to identify based on what we're going to call our tribe? What identity are we going to use? What does that identity mean? Is it just religion? Is it, I can use this doctrine of discovery, manifest destiny, where I can go anywhere, and if they're not practicing the religion that I'm practicing, I can do whatever it is that I want to with their women. I can, do whatever I want to with their kids. I can kill all their men, take their land. Is that the mindset that we're identifying with? Are we identifying with just based on color? Which is, okay, we got this slave trade going on and we've had slavery all over, but this one is unique because we're just going to do it based on race. Should we have Olympics now where it's just white versus black, where it's just Christians versus Catholics or Jews and Muslims? Like, should we do the Olympics based on that? Should the identity be solely on country, your nation that you're living in? I think that's moving in the right direction. Or should it be based on values that we're supposed to live by? Because that's what religion is supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be us coming together on things that are not as trivial or as surface level as race, as sex. It's supposed to be us coming together based on principles, values, and morals. But all of these people that claim to be these things, all these people that claim to live with Christian values, Jewish values, Muslim values, what ends up happening is their fear pushes them to compromise those values that are supposed to supersede the trivial surface level things like race. It pushes those things to the side and prioritizes just the identity based on the things like race. Nick is a Christian nationalist. That's what he says. But when you hear a lot of his most performative rhetoric, what does it usually come across as? Oh, he's a white nat. Oh, it has to do with white. Okay. In the conversation that I had with him talking about going on black podcasts and stuff, he was like, well, I don't think that they receive it well because, at the heart, I'm still a white national, or said something like that. I want to be careful with the words. I believe in my mind, I was getting ready to say white nationalist or pro-white or whatever he was saying. Okay, yeah, I'm pro-white too. I'm pro everything. I'm Christian, I'm Muslim, I'm Buddhist, I'm everything. I'm everything. I identify with the Stoics. What is that? Marcus Aurelius in that time. I'm everything. Don't try to, when we start putting these dumb boxes on ourselves. And even though we've been doing it for so long, like critical thinking said, because critical thinking is 100% right. We don't just shake this overnight. But haven't we had, let's look at it from a different perspective. We've been doing this for so long, maybe we can start to shift in a different direction. What did we just have? Fires 400 years ago? We were cooking food with fires. Now we have AI robots that you damn near don't even need humans to run a business because you can use AI. So how come we can push ourselves to advance in other aspects and areas of life that we can profit from? Maybe that's the reason why. Or that there's a profit, control, influence, different things. Maybe that's why they want to advance when it comes to the technology side of things. But why can't we apply that same energy to advancing humanity? Especially when we see the direction that we're going in. Is anybody happy about the direction that we're going in? When you look at Americans overall, this is why everybody embraces victimhood and why there's the fear has become so overwhelming to where everybody feels like everybody else is out to get them. And that creates a very, very toxic environment.
I don't think it's genetically inherited. And what you're saying about putting aside the tribal interest for the corporate interest,
yes,
that's absolutely the case. And that's the only way the country's going to stay together.
Exactly.
And
that's my concern.
And I absolutely agree with you. I would say, though, that the main challenge to that, a big challenge to that, is organized Jewry in America. I don't think Bill Ackman is capable of that. I don't think Sheldon Adelson is capable of that. I don't think Yoram Hazony is capable of that, for that matter. And many other, on the right and the left. And I see Jewishness as the common denominator. And you're right. It's not all Jewish people feel the same way. No one would say that. But that does seem to be the common denominator. And I just feel like it needs to be called out explicitly. And I like what you said the other day. If you're serving in another country's military or have dual citizenship, you really can't be a part of this project.
Well, that's an easy one. But I am much more comfortable as a Christian and an American keeping it on that level because, it's easy to just set universal rules that apply to everyone, not just the Jews or the Christians or the anybody, just like Americans can only serve in the U.S. military or they lose their passport. I mean, I don't know. That's not hard. And I don't know. Why not just say that?
Say what?
That. Why not make every statement about how Americans ought to behave applicable to all Americans? Like it's the defense of universal values that will hold the country together and the emphasis on parochial group values that will break it apart inevitably.
I'm with Tucker on this. And even though I started off the show saying Nick is on a different level, I agree more with Tucker. Let me be clear. I believe that, well, at least on this topic, you can't just say I agree more with Tucker. On this topic, I am more so aligned with Tucker. I do believe, and I think there was somebody that wrote a comment earlier, that Nick is a young kid who's seeing a lot of these things. You can appreciate his passion in certain aspects, but I don't necessarily think that it's pushing us in the best direction. I'll be totally honest. What Tucker just described is exactly what we've been talking about. So even though, and this is why we have to cover somebody like Nick and have him have conversations with people like Tucker instead of just trying to cancel him or instead of just trying to leave him on an island by himself. Hopefully Nick grows from a perspective when it comes to this conversation that he's had with Tucker. Because he is so gifted. Nick is just I think somebody put it up earlier, master articulator. However, on this issue, I am rocking with Tucker. Tucker just described exactly what we said when he talks about America and people just more so uniting on an America principle and American values. What do we want America to stand for? How do we want Americans who are living in America to feel every day when they get up in the morning? What do we want them to feel when they are walking down the streets and they see their neighbors or they see it could be on the subway, I don't know, walking through the city? How do we want people to interact? Do we want people to live in fear? Do we want people to allow that fear to turn into hatred, to now you justify just rocking with your own and hating that other group and listening to the most radical voices in your bubble that are going to convince you more and more because you know less and less about those other people that you choose to avoid rather than interact with? So therefore, you're listening to these radical voices that are now radicalizing you and now you're complicit in a lot of the things that are going on, even though if you broke it down, you probably wouldn't align with those things that are being said about that group. These are the things that come to mind. So let me catch up with some of the comments and then we're going to move on to the next topic. Interesting point, Romulus. Okay. It's funny that you say this. Wow. Okay. We make the comparison on here. We were just joking around about it, I think, yesterday, making the comparison between Malcolm X and Nick. But you're spot on when it comes to this. Nick, like Malcolm X, will come around unless he is killed like X for changing positions. Nick needs to be appreciated. Nick needs to be taken under the wing of a guy like Tucker. And I think Nick, that's what he always wanted. If you listen to how Nick talks about Kanye West and Donald Trump, his reverence for them, it hasn't wavered. His reverence, when he's talking about how it was sitting down, and later on in the interview, they talk about this sitting down at the table and having, Thanksgiving dinner. It was a few nights before Thanksgiving with Kanye and Donald Trump. Nick goes back to that just deep reverence and respect that he has for these idols of his. But what happens is when you put somebody like Nick on an island and you force them into this fight or flight mode, not everybody's going to be a runner. Some people are going to run in the direction of the conflict, of the people that are trying to silence them. So I respect Nick for that. And hopefully, and I think, to be totally honest, Romulus, what I fear the most is because I think Nick has already come around. And a lot of people, even when it comes to Malcolm X, they said, well, deep down, there's no way that Malcolm X didn't really know that there were white Muslims. Like, he had to know that, even though he went on this pilgrimage to Mecca, and then he came back and he's like, oh my God, I saw I had white brothers, white Muslims. A lot of people were saying like, Malcolm already knew that, but because he was getting awakened in other areas where he found out that Elijah Muhammad was not living the life that Malcolm thought that he was living. He had this break from his brothers in the Nation of Islam. So a lot of people thought that it was a mixture of him having some sort of awakening there, but not acting as if he never knew that there were Muslims that weren't white or weren't black that looked like him. So I don't know. I don't know when it comes to that. And that wasn't I don't know how y'all get tested. So that was a genuine, I don't know Malcolm's mindset when it comes to that. But I think we can judge and put it into it. It has to be judged. It has to be included in the context. So even though that may have been a little bit strategic as well as enlightening with him going on his pilgrimage to Mecca, I think that Nick knows deep down that a lot of the rhetoric that he uses is not aligned with how he now has grown to see the world, but he also struggles with, I have to still appeal to my base. And the more isolated I've become because nobody else wants to rock with me, the more loyalty that I've had over these years to my base that hasn't wavered in their support. So my biggest fear is that Nick, who I believe has woken up to see a lot of these things, that he will choose to go in the more radical route, the more performative rhetoric, race-based rhetoric route, rather than what Tucker just suggested as far as bringing people together from all realms of life under a value system, whether that's American values or any other value system. So those are my thoughts on it. Let's move on to this next video. I want y'all to get a glimpse of this next video. Let's start it off right here. Can you guys see it? Perfect. We're gonna get right into it. No intro. This is maybe a little intro. Y'all probably are aware. Let's get to it.
Now to a politician running for a Senate seat caught on video getting wild at a wedding. He ended up taking off his shirt.
And I want to hold on because I want to address critical thinking. Wrote a great point. Then if he knows it but keeps spouting it, what does that say? It says to me that he's conflicted and he doesn't know which side he's going to end up leaning more into. And to me, it's a bit of a cop out. You know, it's a bit of a cop out to go that route. It's a bit of a cop out, and I'm not sure that I would call it cowardly now at this point, but I do think it's a bit of a cop out because as you grow, in my opinion, just me, you should be transparent enough with your audience to help them grow as well, rather than just thinking that you have to appeal to them with the same things that you were maybe appealing to them 8 years ago. That would be my thought, but it's something for us to pay attention to. And we're just going to be critical of it, call it out as it is. Hopefully Nick is made aware of that. Hopefully the people that are in his circle, they're willing to call it out as well. And hopefully he'll grow from that. But we'll just have to judge based on his actions, not root for him like a fan. So that's what I think is very important. Shout out to Big Bro Robert. Appreciate it every single time, just like the first time. All right, so Robert wrote, the global elites need us to fight each other so we don't form a tribe of normal working people. This is how BlackRock can own our homes and the investor class can pay no taxes and steal from society. Let me read that entire thing again. The global elites need us to fight each other so we don't form a tribe of normal working people. Coming together as normal working people. Why do we need the politicians, these elites, to run us? The politicians just work for the elites. Why do we look for them for leadership? Why not us just come together? We have the power. Just think about it. Think about how much money they spend to try to convince us to think a particular way. That shows that we have the actual power. A lot of times we're just lazy and don't want to unite, don't want to organize, and don't want to use it effectively. But I think it's necessary if we want to get to a place where we're advancing society, advancing humanity. This is how BlackRock can own our homes and the investor class can pay no taxes and steal from society. Facts. All right. let's keep it going. Let's keep it going, because if I keep checking with the comments, I know I'm never gonna get out of there. But let's run this back.
Now to a politician running for a Senate seat caught on video getting wild at a wedding. He ended up taking off his shirt, which revealed a chest tattoo that's raising a lot of eyebrows because it resembles a Nazi symbol. Now he says he's covering that tattoo up.
A man strips down at his brother's wedding reception. Wearing only his underwear, he rocks out to the Miley Cyrus hit Wrecking Ball. But take a closer look. That's a tattoo on his chest, a skull and crossbones that sure looks like the notorious Nazi symbol. And that's not just any wedding guest having a good time. His name is Graham Plattner, and he's running for the U.S. Senate from the state of Maine. Plattner, a former Marine, is a Democrat challenging Republican Susan Collins, who has held the Senate seat for almost 30 years. Now Plattner is speaking out.
I am not a secret Nazi.
The 41-year-old oyster farmer says he got the tattoo in 2007 in Croatia and didn't realize it had a Nazi connection.
We got very inebriated, and we did what Marines on liberty do, and we decided to go get a tattoo.
Plattner says he had a tattoo artist cover up the controversial symbol with this new design.
By the way, that new design, I don't know. I guess the skull and crossbones is a hard tattoo to cover up, but I feel like I could have put him in touch with. I don't know. It's almost like native symbolism is given. I don't know. But let me be very clear on this issue. First off, I'm not going to be very clear on this issue. I'm going to get into the conversation that I want to unpack what you all just said. I just wanted to give that, just to give some context, but I want to get into this. Let's bring some others into the conversation, because I don't want to talk y'all ears off. I want to be able to have the conversation with CNN. So let's join the CNN panel.
Good evening. I'm Abby Phillip in New York. We are back in the test kitchen at the Food Network, our sister company for Fall Fridays. And we'll, of course, catch up with the crowd and our chefs over there preparing food for us later in the show. But first, let's get right to what America is talking about. A tattoo, the internet, and a high-stakes primary election for Maine's Senate seat. And tonight, old social media posts may be coming back to haunt Graham Plattner. He is the Democratic hopeful looking to fill Susan Collins' seat. And this week, Plattner said that he covered a chest tattoo that some people said looked like a Nazi symbol. And here's what it looks like right now. You can see it there. He claims that he didn't know what it meant when he got it.
Are you a secret Nazi?
I am not a secret Nazi. We did what Marines on liberty do, and we decided to go get it. And we chose a terrifying looking skull and crossbones off Croatia. And we chose a terrifying looking skull and crossbones off the wall because we were Marines, and skulls and crossbones are a pretty standard military thing.
But CNN's K-File dug up Plattner's now deleted Reddit posts from 6 years ago that undercut that claim. In one thread, Plattner weighed in on a conversation about the Totenkopf, which is the Nazi version of the skull and crossbones. And someone else in the thread brought up the fact that some of the Navy SEALs use the so-called Punisher skull as their emblem. And Plattner writes in part, "When I was in Ramadi as a Marine grunt, the SEAL platoon we worked closely with for the deployment all had the Punisher skull spray painted on their armor carriers." CNN also spoke to an acquaintance of Plattner's from more than a decade ago who said that he spoke about his tattoo resembling a Nazi symbol. And a second person told CNN that the acquaintance told them that Plattner had described it as a Nazi-style design. Plattner's campaign declined to comment on this story, but it goes from bad to worse. What now, Sochi? And why are so many Democrats unwilling to say this is not going to work? This is not acceptable.
Well, I think this new reporting might change things, and I think that he actually needs to think about getting out of the race. You just mentioned this is a high-stakes race. Democrats don't want to be talking about this next fall. This is a seat that potentially Democrats could flip that could cost us potential control of the Senate. And so I think that there needs to be a little bit more pressure on him to resign. I think that it has gone too far. And the fact that we are a year from the election and we are talking about a scandal involving, something that at this point is solvable. If he were to get out of the race, Democrats could potentially have another rising candidate and could go ahead and beat Susan Collins. But at this point, if he moves forward, Democrats aren't winning the seat.
I hate.
Let my man Scotty. Let my man Scotty go. I'm trying to hold off on my commentary.
To break the news to you, but he's winning the primary by 30 points.
Well, I think
getting
that's why
a
he
Nazi
needs to get
tattoo,
out.
getting a Nazi tattoo made him more popular.
I don't think it made him more popular
among Democrats. You've got a guy running for attorney general in Virginia who wants to murder Republicans, and he raised $500,000 off
people
of
have
it.
also
You got
said-
Nazi tattoo guy in Maine. I sat out here for a year, 2 years, listening to every Democrat at this table say, Donald Trump's a Nazi, Elon's a Nazi, and your party is now in love with a guy with a Nazi tattoo who trained a left-wing paramilitary group and called himself an Antifa super soldier on the internet, and he's going up every day. Good luck getting him out.
Your president.
Good luck getting him
the
out.
person that you nominated.
Good luck getting him
pardoned 1,600 insurrectionists. I don't think the Republican
It's not
Party
gonna
has.
work. You're not going to
room
wash
to
away
talk
the
right
Nazi
now.
tattoo with your
I'm
old
not
talking
saying,
points.
and what
Not
did I
gonna
just?
work.
All right, so I want to rewind that, but I want to, and I'm actually talking to critical thinking right now. So let me do this real quick. I feel like there's a lot of different conversations to have. A lot of different conversations to have on this. And one that I want to focus on, not going to touch on it for too long. I guess the easy one is it a Nazi symbol? Some people have said it's not a traditional Nazi symbol, or it is a traditional Nazi symbol. The Nazis used it. We use it on a bunch of different things. And I believe that. I don't care if it's a Nazi symbol as much as I care about him just being real. If you got something for whatever reason when you were, he said, I think he's 41 years old. He did it 18 years ago. So when he's 23 years old, if you got something when you were 23, like, yo, just be honest. Say like whether you still rock with it. If you still rock with it, then say, yeah, I still rock with it because of A, B, and C. I would have appreciated him more just saying, nah, I didn't get it for those reasons. I don't care if Nazis use it. That's not what we got it for. And I'm standing on that, if that's the truth. Or I would appreciate him being honest and saying like, yo, I got it. I understand what it was about, or I understood what it was about at the time. I don't agree with it now. Whether or not I feel like covering it up or doing something else, just be honest. That's what I think people can appreciate. If he would have said that, I feel like he would have gained an even greater following. Maybe amongst Democrats and Republicans. Just be honest and say like, yo, exactly what it is. You look weak and untrustworthy when you present it in a way saying like, oh, well, I didn't know what this was. I didn't know. It is what it is. I would appreciate just him being more genuine, whatever it is. People can make mistakes. Yes, I don't want to be held. I'll be held accountable to the things I did maybe at 23, but let's not cancel people for just one thing. That would be my opinion. Now, if he still stood on those Nazi principles, that's different, obviously. Now, what exactly the Nazi principles are, I guess we'd have to debate on that. But if he still stood on any hatred for a group of people that, are obviously some of those people are Americans, then yes, I don't even think you need to cancel somebody. Just don't vote for him. Let's keep going.
A left-wing paramilitary group and called himself an Antifa super soldier on the internet, and he's going up every day. Good luck getting him out.
Your president.
Good luck getting him
the
out.
person that you nominated.
Good luck
pardoned 1,600 insurrectionists. I don't think the Republican Party.
This is one of the weakest arguments that y'all Democrats have. And this is what I can't stand about the Democrats. Over and over, I've said on this show, and I just was talking to my mother about this. See, when somebody brings a criticism to me about Donald Trump, I don't feel the need to be weak and respond and say something about Joe Biden or say something about Barack Obama. And if I do, then I try to catch myself, or I ask that person to catch me, because that's weak. Every time that I've been critical of Donald Trump on this show, I've been extremely critical of Donald Trump. I haven't even mentioned Biden. I may mention Biden and Kamala Harris. I think I mentioned them maybe a week or two ago, just regarding certain things that are relevant, like them censoring Mark Zuckerberg is something like that, or during 2020 we were referencing something back. But if I'm critiquing Donald Trump and what Donald Trump's doing, it's a very weak argument to them. Well, Joe Biden did this, but this is what y'all Democrats do. I've been extremely critical of Donald Trump, extremely critical, to the point where I was like, yo, my bad for even voting for him. I apologize for voting for him based on the things that he's doing, because it's not consistent for the reasons why I voted for him. I don't like what Donald Trump's doing. I don't like what Donald Trump. Now, should I sit here and say, and I probably have said this from time to time, just being honest, Kamala Harris and Biden, they didn't even ask for a ceasefire. But we don't need to get into that, right? Because I'm talking about Trump. I voted for Trump to do certain things, and he's not doing them, so that's why I'm critical of Trump. This is what I've been talking about with the Democrats. This is why y'all had Kamala Harris running for president and not even have to compete for the role, because you had Joe Biden running around like Weekend at Bernie's, getting held up in every interview or every appearance. And y'all really were sitting back thinking that Joe Biden's capable of running the country for another 4 years, let alone he wasn't even running the country for the 4 years that he was president. But your bias and your Trump derangement syndrome had you seeing the world through a filter that was not realistic when you were looking at Joe Biden. So now when this person has a Nazi tattoo, just think about this from this standpoint. How many times did we hear people, whether it's Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, or everybody else that's trying to scare us, Taraji P. Henson, trying to scare us with Donald Trump, saying that Donald Trump, or alluding to Donald Trump being a Nazi, Hitler, right? We've talked about this before with Barack Obama. He could say those things and then laugh around when he's sitting next to Trump. Phony. But here y'all are calling Donald Trump Hitler and a Nazi. And then you actually have somebody who has a Nazi.
What did I just say? I said that he should resign.
Good luck.
And I think the Democrats should all speak out.
Did they just cut the stream? Hold on. Did y'all hear everything that I was saying? Somebody tell me real quick, where did it cut out at? Because I want to make sure that y'all heard me. Just tell me where it cut out at. I don't know what just happened. Yeah, y'all know who came through. Y'all know what happened. Y'all know what happened. Romulus knows what happened. Before I continue, I was just rambling about, let me just say it this way. Did y'all hear me talking about Barack Obama? All right, only about 30 seconds. All right, so pretty much, yeah, this is, y'all heard me say as far as Donald Trump and them trying to call him Hitler and a Nazi, but then y'all sitting around here justifying or putting blame and not even just be willing to take accountability. Why did you even have to bring up Donald Trump pardoning 1,600 insurrectionists? It has nothing to do with this situation. But this is what politics is. This is what happens when you're a fanatic of a particular system, a particular party, a particular person, and you pledge your allegiance to it to defend it by any means necessary. You're not an independent thinker. This is what happens when you pledge your allegiance and join these gangs, whether it's Democrats or Republicans. This is what happens. Let's keep going.
should stay in. You seem to be very eager to defend his strengthening the primary.
I am but a humble political analyst, and I will just tell you that when you're winning a race by 30 points, if a pundit on television tells you, well, you need to think about dropping out, you laugh in their face.
I don't know. I feel like,
this is a year out.
I feel like you ought to take the agreement when it's happening. I mean, she's saying pretty clearly he should leave the race.
I want Democrats to be who they are. This is who they are.
This is not
this is who they are.
No, it is
not. Hold on, you're saying that Democrats are Nazis? Is
I'm
that
saying
what
it's
you're
very,
saying
it's
to
very
me?
on brand right
I'm
now.
sorry.
Very on brand.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on, Scott. Really, like.
This is what happens with all the goofy rhetoric. You're saying that the Democrats are Nazis? Well, y'all said that every Republican rocking with Trump, y'all insinuated, what did Barack Obama say? Barack Obama got up and scolded black men for even considering voting for Trump. The Democrats sit on this fake moral high ground, and I can't stand it. I can't stand it. Don't pander to me. Don't tell me things that I want to hear to try to appeal to me and get my vote. This is what Democrats have been doing to game y'all. Didn't y'all pay attention? All y'all Malcolm X fans. I don't understand, especially all these black people that vote Democrat that then want to quote Malcolm X. Your quote, what was Malcolm X? He already gave y'all the game. And this is what's being shown. And I'm not saying that, look, I'm just telling y'all what Malcolm said. Malcolm said that what's the worst thing to a black man? He said the liberal white man, right? The worst thing to, and when you look at, if we just look at it based on what has impacted black lives, if black lives really matter, when you look at the policies that have impacted black lives the most, tell me a Republican policy that has destroyed more black families than either Lyndon B. Johnson's welfare programs or Joe Biden and Bill Clinton's crime bill. While you're thinking about that for the rest of the show, we'll continue.
Are you suggesting that like a person who wears a Nazi tattoo because he was in the military or whatever is representative of the entire Democratic Party? Is that the...
I'm only reading the polling, Abby. When all this story broke and he started talking about it, he literally got more popular. He's beating the incumbent governor of Maine by 30 points.
You realize that he's running in one state, in Maine, and you're also saying that because of that, he's representative of the Democratic Party. You said this is who they are. Who is they?
Look at the poll.
Do you see what, am I bugging? Please tell me if I'm bugging. The nerve of these arrogant liberals. You're accusing the entire Democratic Party of representing with this guy, with his Nazi. This is exactly what y'all do when it comes to Donald Trump and Republicans. Like, what are we talking about? This is what I mean, the arrogance, when you can apply different rules when it comes to you than the standard that you hold for other people. What are you talking about?
Look at the energy.
This is not about the polling.
This is not about the polling.
This is who they want. Bernie Sanders wants him. The beating heart of the Democratic Party, where their energy is, wants the Nazi tattoo guy. That's what they want.
75% of Democrats polled in that state did say that he stands with their value, and that was after the initial.
What was the number?
Broke. 75%. That's according to Real Clear Politics. So that was after, and again, who knows? Maybe this ultimately will be disqualifying, what the K-File has reported, but nothing thus far, even very incriminating reports, haven't been enough to assuage or concern voters and encourage him to drop out. And it's an interesting point because, you know, Bernie Sanders, a lot of folks, even just this morning, continue to stand by him. So I'll wait to see what this new report does.
Let me play what Bernie Sanders has said about this. Let's play the Bernie clip.
Bernie.
I think if this country is about anything, it's about understanding that every person, me, you, everybody else has gone dark moments in our history, and we go on.
So you're standing by your endorsement?
Absolutely.
Oh, we all go through dark moments. So that's why we should excuse Joe Biden and his crime bill, but still bring up the Central Park 5 printout that ad that Donald Trump took out in the paper. Hold Donald Trump to all the things that he did in the past. But when it comes to a Democrat, Bernie's not sitting here saying, yo, the tattoo has nothing to do with Nazis. He's saying that we've all had a dark past. We should be able to move on. And he continues his endorsement. I want y'all to hear what Jemele Hill has to say about this.
That's embarrassing. I'm sorry, that's embarrassing because, look, I understand that why the reason so many Democrats are holding the line is because they're looking at the Republicans and they're saying they always hold the line and it doesn't matter how embarrassing, how awful their candidate is. And so they're saying we need to do the same thing. And I'm saying, no, don't do the same thing. That dude doesn't represent me. We need to assess our entire American political value system. Having a Nazi tattoo should be disqualifying. Period. In the sentence. This guy doesn't represent the values of the Democratic Party.
Yo, y'all ever watch that clip of Charlemagne and Larry Elder, where Charlemagne is talking about Larry Elder, and he says, it would appear that you would have a nigga wake-up call. He says a nigga wake-up call. And it's a moment that you go through in life when you all of a sudden wake up and realize oh, you wouldn't. And Larry Elder flipped it on Charlemagne. And with Charlemagne, he said, well, remember when you were sitting down with Joe Biden and interviewing him and you asked him, what he specifically, or what did he ask him? Oh my God, hold on. Now I got to show the clip. Hold on. Charlotte, I'm not doing it justice. Hold on. Larry Elder. Hold on. I gotta show y'all this clip. Hold on. This is what's happening with Jemele Hill. She's having a nigga wake-up call. She's realizing what Malcolm X said. Hold on. Let me play this clip for y'all.
The term nigga wake-up call? No. It is an incident where a person of color forgets that they are of color. Have you ever heard of the term nigga wake-up call? No. It is an incident where a person of color forgets that they are of color and are reminded rather brutally by an unexpected act of racism. Have you ever had any of those?
Oh, brother.
I'm just asking.
Are y'all seeing this?
Well, I'm acutely aware, Charlemagne, that I'm a black person, just as you are a black person. And when
Hold on. Are y'all seeing the video? Somebody tell me if y'all are seeing the video real quick, because it's showing blurry. Are you hearing it? Are you seeing it? Somebody in the chat, help out, please. Okay, so you're not seeing it. Okay. This was the interview. So hold on. Let me.
Joe Biden insulted you by saying, you ain't really black. We don't know whether.
All right. So real quick, I won't even go to that video. Hold on. This is what I'll do. It was when Charlemagne, let me tell you about the nigga wake up call that Jemele Hill's having. So Charlemagne asked Larry Elder, and then Larry Elder said, well, Charlemagne, when Joe Biden told you that you're not black unless you vote for me. When Charlemagne's asking Joe Biden, well, what are you going to do for black people? And Joe Biden says, yeah, you ain't black unless you vote for me. Stop playing. I don't need to do anything specifically for y'all. That was the energy that it gave off. Go back and look at the interview. And Larry Elder said, well, it appears to me that would have been your nigga wake-up call when it came to the Democrats. So let me break this down for Jemele Hill. Jemele Hill said that this guy doesn't represent me. He doesn't represent the Democratic values. Jemele Hill, you bought into thinking that the Democrats, those are the nice people that love black people. The Republicans are the ones that hate black people. This is what you bought into. This is what you were raised on, right? That all black people, you got to vote Democrat. All Republicans, they're the racist ones. They're trying to hold you back. They're the ones that are trying to get rid of all these programs, these welfare programs that black people need because they're not as good as white people, right? They're the ones that are trying to make it so things are not based on merit so we can give you guys an advantage because we know that you guys need it. Jemele Hill is looking at Bernie Sanders, realizing that, they don't really care about this whole racism topic. They prioritize when it comes to them other things, but they just use that whole race baiting and this group is racist, that group is racist. They use that to appeal to people like you, Jemele Hill, because they know that you are emotionally triggered and you are an emotional voter. And if they can convince you that Donald Trump said there's good people on both sides, then you'll vote for any and everybody else on the other side. This is your nigga wake-up call, Jemele Hill. And a lot of other black Democrats, perhaps it's time for y'all to have one as well. And perhaps Jemele Hill should look into, when it comes to the Nazis, since she's so offended by the Nazis, perhaps she should look into maybe Jesse Owens' experience with the Nazis. That's what I would say, but that's a totally different topic. But what Jemele Hill is realizing, that only the victims that they're trying to appease, they're trying to appeal to, only the fans, they use the emotional engagement and the fear. They use that to appeal to y'all. They don't really feel that way. Donald Trump doesn't care or think or Barack Obama doesn't care if Donald Trump is Hitler or Nazi. He's just using that to appeal to your emotions. So Taraji P. Henson can jump on stage and try to convince the rest of the black people watching the BET Awards that Donald Trump is trying to put you in chains and shackles. And did anybody have an answer to my question? I'm sorry, I haven't been paying attention to the chat. Did anybody answer my question as far as what policies the Republicans or conservatives have put in play that have destroyed more black families than Joe Biden and Bill Clinton's crime bill and Lyndon B. Johnson's welfare program? That question is still out there. Let's keep going.
He represents maybe the values of Maine, which is frightening enough. And I'm just saying that, like, I don't think the way that you return fire with the Republicans is by going as low and as ridiculous as they do. Like, you can't stand yourself apart. You know what they say about arguing with a fool? From a distance, you can't tell who is who. And right now, it's like the reason that people make those arguments about both parties being the same is because of stuff like this.
You know, you acknowledge
Jemele Hill, both parties are the same. And for you to be one of these blackity blacks, I would expect you, out of all people, to understand and tap into what Malcolm X has said when it comes to the Republicans versus the Democrats. You are being used. We just talked about how Nick Fuentes and a lot of people on the conservative side, they try to feed into the fears of white people on that side. The Democrats try to feed into the fears of black people, the fears of Spanish people or Hispanic people. They're all using us. They just have different marketing strategies to sell us whatever product that it is that they're pushing, which gives them power at the detriment of having us hate each other and not living in harmony. Jemele Hill, in her mind, she still thinks that the Democrats are like better people. It's all the same. These people, let me explain to y'all how it's all the same. If you receive a paycheck from the same people, then that means that even if you're on one side of the movie, it's like watching a movie. Remember Fast and Furious, or I don't know, let's say when it's Vin Diesel going against The Rock before they became friends. They all want the movie to do well. They're just acting in a movie. Do you think wrestlers who are acting, they want the show to sell out? They both want the show to sell out. They work for the same people. They're just playing different roles that all lead to the same agenda, which is us hating each other, us being divided, and them being in control. Jemele Hill is confused.
That some of this polling that we're talking about is before all of this. There are two things that you should keep in mind. One is that he initially claimed that he didn't know the connection between the tattoo and Nazi symbols. He said while he was in the military, he enlisted in the Army. It involves a full physical exam of all the tattoos that he has. It never got flagged. He passed a full background check to receive a security clearance to join the ambassador to Afghanistan's security detail. Not flagged in any of those situations. However, CNN's reporting today finds that in a 2020 online discussion that he said that the SS lightning bolt tattoos were a culture marker within Marine Scouts sniper units. That is something that is probably worth scrutiny, if that is true. He also says he has no idea what they're talking about and about the criticism of it, and I will be sure to inform the black guys I know with bolts that they're Nazis now.
Oh.
So,
I got a black friend.
So again, bolts that they're Nazis now.
Oh.
So,
I got a black friend.
This is what Plattner says. When commenters in the 2020 thread describe the lightning bolts as Nazi, I have no idea. have no idea what they're talking about. I will be sure to inform the black guys I know with bolts that they're not. First and foremost, see, this is the ignorance. Yeah, black people can be Nazis. They always, I'm seeing this pattern, and I'm going to go in a different direction very quickly, but I'm seeing this pattern. Do y'all realize whether it's Nick Fuentes, whether it's Hitler, it seems like people who talk about certain groups of people, let's say, well, we're talking about Jewish people right now, just being honest. They always try to bring black people into it. The Democrats do this as well. They always try to make it, oh, well, if they don't like this group of people, oh, yeah, they're racist against black people too. Because they know we'll go for it. They know we got a whole bunch of Jamel Hills. They know we will go. Yeah, Nazis, bro, Jesse Owens made it very clear. The Nazis were treating him better than he was treated here. Didn't he get congratulated by Hitler and the Nazis? Hold on, I had to look this up. Who was it, Roosevelt? I had to do this yesterday. Franklin D. Roosevelt didn't congratulate Jesse Owens. Stop fucking with black people. And black people wake up. Stop thinking that just because they throw the word racist on somebody else because somebody's critical of another group of people that we got to frontline that fight. We got to embrace that fight. They are using us. Well, I'll tell all my black friends that they're Nazis too. Okay. Okay. Yeah, black people can be Nazis. Why not? Oh, black people can't be Nazis because Nazis allegedly hated black people. Knock it off. That's just not what happened. It's not true. Stop trying to lump us in all your racial stuff because you know that we're easily manipulated. And that's a shot at black people, if anything. Black people, wake up. Stop being manipulated and fooled by this. Oh, he talks about Jewish people 99% of the time and says something funny about black people, whatever. Oh, but black people are more mad at him than black people won't even listen to him, won't even entertain him. Hitler. What did Hitler do? What did Hitler do to black people again? So black people were being treated worse in America than when Jesse Owens once again went over and dealt with was in Germany, rocking with the Nazis, whatever, in that Olympics. But he was treated better over there. But you want to try to stop playing with me. And we keep allowing them to play with us. This is embarrassing. This is embarrassing. Let's keep going.
So again, okay. Look, I do think that this new information is new information, and it will be interesting to see what happens to some of that polling once the voters have this information, because I do think it shows a bit of a different picture of, first of all, his truthfulness. I think that's in question. But secondly, whether or not he was fully aware of what he was getting into when he went there.
Yeah, well, now he's lied about it. That's on the record. But I'm not confident that we're going to see Bernie Sanders or some of these folks call on him to drop out. But I guess it is too soon to tell.
Bernie Sanders isn't the head of the Democratic Party. I think
he's not.
Absolutely not. Don't even.
Where's the energy? Where's the energy of the party?
Here is.
Bernie Sanders is not the head of the Democratic Party. If not, then who is? Who has had the juice that Bernie has had for the last 12 years? Even though he got stabbed in the back by the rest of the Democrats when he was beating Joe Biden and should have been the nominee. But when he was beating Joe Biden and all the people behind the scenes in the establishment, they came together and made everybody else drop out the race and put their support behind Joe Biden. And who knows what they were giving in return for that. Bernie Sanders, isn't he the one flying around on private jets with AOC doing this fight the oligarchs tour? So I guess we're fighting oligarchs, but Nazi tap, we good with that. If it is a Nazi tap, I'm just making a point. Bernie Sanders, aren't they calling this tour that him and AOC are on as him passing the torch to AOC? Who is you think Barack Obama's the head of the party? Who's the head of the party? Joe Biden? To a lot of y'all, as shameful as that is, it's probably true. Is Kamala Harris the head of the party? Oh, no. It's Gavin Newsom. It's Gavin Newsom. It's Gavin Newsom, I guess.
What I will tell you,
Schumer
Scott,
wants Mills.
Scott,
Sanders wants this guy, and he's winning by 30.
Let me tell you, when polling happens at this stage in a race, these are very engaged voters. These are not necessarily, and even then, not all voters right now are completely engaged in this race. So I will say that it will be interesting to see where the polling goes. Republicans will rush to try to make this person the head of the Democratic Party. And I will just warn you, I don't know how many times over the last few months you guys have said that it is dangerous whenever you're calling Donald Trump or anyone else a name like a Nazi or any sort of other name, and it leads to violence.
So now you're realizing that it's dangerous and you want people to give you grace, even though you were the ones doing certain things, calling Donald Trump a Nazi, calling him all these things. Now somebody actually has a tattoo, but you're saying we need to give him grace because remember, y'all said that it was dangerous calling Donald Trump all these names. And now that it's happening to one of us, we realize it. Even what she's talking about is Republicans are going to be in a rush to make this person the head of the party or make this topic the head topic to highlight where the Democrats' minds really are, who they're supporting. Yeah, you would do the same thing. Like it's like they have no shame. There's no shame, no accountability. Like it's insane.
I would be careful to frame all Democrats as
he
literally
has a Nazi tattoo.
He literally has a Nazi tattoo.
Look at Jamel Hill. Even she's looking at her. She got the head tilted to the side. Like, girl, like, don't even defend it. Look at Jamel Hill. When Jamel Hill is looking at you like this and you're defending Democrats, then you know you got a problem.
They're blaming us for the tattoos?
He literally has a Nazi tattoo. The party, that is not the position of the entire party. And so if you're going to sit here
winning by 30.
and say it doesn't matter what he's winning, he is not reflecting
he is totally
the
unknown.
entire party.
Listen, I understand you don't want to have this guy, and I wouldn't either. He is a totally unknown guy, comes out of nowhere. He's got the full support of the left-wing, progressive Sanders wing of the Democratic Party. And
like everybody
he's beating
who supports Bernie Sanders?
Yes. Look at the polling. And here's the most important thing. He's beating the incumbent governor of the state by 30 points. This isn't happening in a vacuum. People are comparing an establishment figure like Mills and this insurgent left-wing radical like Plattner, and they're like, you know what? We'll take the Nazi tattoos. It's fine. And I think look, it may be early, but people are following this race, and the polling is pretty clear. It's not that close.
Look, I think this is not obviously the first time that we've had an unsavory candidate endorsed by the establishment, despite his past words. That happened in an
not endorsed by the establishment. She is.
Excuse me, but I'm saying like you're suggesting that this is representative of the Democratic Party. I'm just saying in the past, you know, there was a Senate race in Alabama.
That's right.
All right, we good. And Welchmer, I saw your message, but that was a while ago. Are they doing this? Oh wait, hold on. I saw you write a comment. Is this about Pete Hague said I'm lost because they did this there? You're lost. I think you came in. I saw an earlier comment. I think you came in the middle of the discussion. So the title of the thumbnail may have thrown you off a bit. But please go back and listen to at least the beginning of this segment. So therefore you'll have the full context on it. I would appreciate that. That's all we got. It's already 9:40. Oh my God. All right. So we're gonna make this very quick. So this is the most important part of the show. So Welchmer, I'm glad that you did actually fast forward. And South, I gotta get out of here. Y'all know I would do this all day with y'all if I could. I promise y'all. Maybe I can. Maybe one day we'll do that. Y'all know we did 20. Are y'all aware we did 24 hours of election coverage? I think we did 24 hours. Yeah. I don't even know. I gotta go back and see if that's even up because I think they took the actual video down. But it wasn't a waste. All right, so we have 4 box breathing sets. This is the most important part. Y'all know manifesting is very important to us. We believe in meditation, all these things, visualizing, getting your breath work in, having the right mindset throughout the day, all these different things, embracing the stoicism. I believe that they all play a role, connecting our mind, body, soul, all these amazing things. 4 seconds on the inhale. 4-second hold, 4 seconds on the exhale, 4-second hold. And every inhale that positive energy. Y'all know we always focus on inhaling that positive energy, and every exhale, releasing the negative limiting energy, right? Anything that's limiting us from becoming the best version of ourselves, maximizing our potential, and seeing ourselves as anything less than the superheroes that we have the potential to become if we're willing to put the work in. So on that note, we're going through it 4 sets. I'm going to lead y'all. Hold on. I forgot. This is my apologies. I forgot. We got to have the sound bowl. We got to have the sound bowl energy in the back. I forgot. My apologies. Let me get it on the screen. Oh, it's already on the screen. All right, let's go. All right. Inhale. 4 seconds. Ready? Begin. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Inhaling positive energy. Hold. Exhale the negative. Hold. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Last set. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. All right, open your eyes if they were closed. Hold on, can I actually keep this on? But I'm going to turn it down. All right, we'll leave that on for the outro. But yo, y'all know what we come here to do. Fresh off the sound bowl, meditation, breath work. We come here to elevate on purpose, both from an intentional standpoint, raising our standards to become the best leaders we can become that are needed now more than ever, and elevating our standards to grow into the people that we need to grow into. So we'll have the confidence, the tools, the skills, everything that we need, we can tap into maximizing our potential in order to accomplish these audacious goals, right? To accomplish these audacious goals. Strength and honor, onward and upward. Let's get to that bag. Now, when I say get to the bag, I'm not talking about money or just talking about money. To each their own. But when I mention it, I'm talking about the things that we focus on throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the year that are ultimately going to add up into what our impact on this world is going to be, that we like to call our personal legend. So in order to make sure that we're on the proper trajectory, living in our purpose, we strive for this purposeful abundance, we need to be clear on what's going to serve as our roadmap. So those are the focus things. So you kind of unpack it to whatever makes sense for you and your goals and the impact that you want to make on the world. But the focus is that I like to make sure that I'm very intentional as far as focusing on, I should say, peace, love, happiness, health, wealth, and in everything we do, integrity. And of course, we always have to make sure that we're being balanced, right? Being balanced. And that balance is going to be different for everybody, right? So on that note, appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Let's get some wise words from some wise people. Unc said, please remember to like and subscribe on your way out. Always remember that this show is off the chain every day. Love it or hate it. This is America. This is America. Different perspectives coming to the table in a respectful form and being able to have dialogue with the intention for all of us to grow. All right. As we strive to achieve that greater peace and just humanity living in harmony, the best way for us to do that is to be the change right now in our own world, right? Our own community. our own bubble, maybe bursting that bubble, inviting people that wouldn't typically be in our communities, going out to others. This is how we're going to grow. This is how we're going to enjoy life, maximizing our potential to the fullest. We need a lot of those people around us that may have different experiences, unique experiences that we can learn and build from. So appreciate you, Unc. Anthony's, bro, see y'all tomorrow. We got some wise words. I think we got some wise words. Robert, so shout out to Robert Browning wrote, turn on notifications. Don't let Google decide what you watch. That is a fact. That is a fact. And Big Bro wrote, with so much divisive propaganda fueling the darkness, let's make sure our candle is lit and burning bright. Be the change. And as always, since the beginning of this show, going on 3, maybe 4 years, we finish off with please sending the fire emojis, letting us know that we had a solid show. So on that note, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Have a good one.